that AI is not wisdom. AI is a result of complicated math computations that come back with, some
predictions.
it's just a prediction.
AI is coming in saying this is this. And I'm like, no way. I can easily influence AI to say it's this or say it's that.
Which answer in your report are you willing to bet your job on?
An amazing example of the balance between seasoned technology executives like you and I combined with the power of AI. Hey everybody, welcome back to AI with Bry, the show where we're exploring how to actually learn, leverage, and lead with AI. I'm your host, Brian Denstead. I'm a technologist, a strategist, and someone who spends a lot of time helping leaders make sense of how AI fits into real work, real teams, and decisions. Each week, I'm joined by guests who are navigating this shift firsthand, not just talking about AI in theory, but figuring out how it changes how organizations execute, compete, and grow. Today, I am super excited to welcome Greg Smith to the show. Welcome, Greg. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Greg is our managing partner in the product and technology practice at TechCXO. He is leading all of us on the fractional CTO, CIO, CPO, CISO, and all the other C-suites in the technology realm. And he's really excellent at helping companies align their technology strategy with real business outcomes. He's bringing decades of experience as an operator, founder, and executive working across product, strategy, technology, turnarounds, mergers and acquisitions, and especially tech diligence, along with scaling teams. So I really love Greg's approach to a lot of the problems. It's grounded in execution, not just strategy. So he's really good at helping teams cut through complexity, clarify priorities, and actually move the ball forward. So in a world where AI is accelerating everything, that kind of focused, practical leadership matters more than ever. And I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you, Greg. Thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate you having me on. I look forward to the conversation.
So let's jump into the first part. It's the learn segment. You're inside a lot of different companies because you get asked to come in for a lot of this tech due diligence that the PE firms and the VC firms need and use. So as a fractional CTO, that gives you a very rare insight into what's actually happening on the AI front, not on the ground, not just what organizations say they're doing.
Right.
So what is something that you've really been learning lately about AI that stood out to you?
I guess a couple different things. One on the, working within a company perspective. I think there's all the individual elements of learning AI and things of that nature. But I think the big thing that I'm learning is how to roll it out. So, there's all kinds of stories about, 95% of AI projects fail. And I think we're definitely, trying to kind of coming past the hype cycle of AI, trying to make it practical. So figuring out how to get that embedded in the culture of a company. And what I see as the emerging way to do that is from a grassroots perspective. So being able to, get at the individual people, educate them on the capabilities, start them thinking about things from a business process perspective, looking at things that are inefficient from their level, not top down. Those are the ones that seem to fail so much, but being able to look at the challenges they face day to day, and then they start thinking, oh wait, maybe we could do this, maybe we could do this, and then that gets infectious, and you build a grassroots kind of movement. So that's my current thinking on the best way to make it real and make it stick. And then when you're looking from an investor perspective, I think probably one of the big things that we're really focused on learning is how you're leveraging that in assessing a company. So specifically from a tech diligence perspective, how are you taking this incredible technology and being able to leverage that to, not replace tech diligence, with some magic button that we hit and, it just automatically says what the risks are, but how to use it to, just like anything in the leveraging of AI, it's like, again, it's past the hype cycle. It's not going to be hey, it just magically does everything, but it's an incredible force multiplier. So how can we use it in tech diligence to be able to better gather information, be able to pull key insights? How do we use it to be able to better put that together. So I think those are some of the things that we're really focused on learning on both sides of the equation.
But before we go, I want to go down that rabbit hole a little bit further with you. But before we do, just for some of the people that may not be fully up to speed, you and I live in this world day to day on a lot of fronts. Like, what is tech diligence? Help the people learn exactly what it is, why you need it, and then we can tie it back into AI a little bit. So give us a quick segment on that.
Yeah. So either in an acquisition situation or an investment situation, whoever's writing the checks wants to know that from a technology perspective, whatever the underlying technology is going to work. It's going to scale. It doesn't have big security gaps. It doesn't have licensing issues in it from an open source perspective or things of that nature. And the main thing is that we're not going to have to write $1 million check next year to redo it. They want to focus their investment on marketing and sales and kind of pouring gas on a fire that's already going. So to go in, to look at things, and we look at things in a very comprehensive way, probably more comprehensive than most, in terms of looking at things from a product perspective, go-to-market fit, competitive differentiation, that kind of stuff. We look at things from an architecture perspective. Is it built well? Will it scale? How well it's deployed? We'll look at the team and processes around that, and how they're structured. That do they have the right leadership? Do they, have key missing roles, or, how's that team going to scale? Things like that. And then we also can look at things from a security perspective, and not just like security from a code security perspective. We do that as part of the architecture, but from a whole company-wide perspective. So, all the way from, onboarding procedures to, backups and redundancy and those kind of things. Something like, you see more in a SOC 2 type of thing. And then once in a while, and this is not too much, maybe more the case so in an acquisition where they're going to integrate companies, you look at things from an IT perspective. So, how are these, this one's on Google, this one's on Microsoft, all that kind of stuff. So how's that all going to come together?
Absolutely. I think that's, some great background for us as we head into the next segment of the podcast. So I think, I don't know, what I see day to day is a lot of leaders are dealing with that tension of how do I get through diligence properly, both from both sides of it, really. Right. Like, is this going to be a good, strong investment? I can get my money back. And on the flip side of it, the leaders trying to say, like, I need this to get going, to get to that next level, to turn this into the $1 billion idea, et cetera. Right. So as we head into the leverage section, I want to, unpack the diligence side of it a little bit more. How is AI impacting our diligence lifecycle, or is it Sure. reducing the speed? Have you found some amazing tools? What pieces of it is AI just like, stay away from this? It still needs us with the 30 years of experience we have doing this. Lay out that vision for us.
Yeah. So when you think about tech diligence, there's at the highest level, there's three kind of main components to it. One is information gathering. There's a ton of information, right? Even from an architecture technology perspective, there's all kinds of diagrams and documents and processes and roadmaps and bug lists and things of that nature. So getting that information. The second kind of main component is assessing it. Like, what do we have? What are the risks? Yeah. What are the key things that might be issues here? And then the third is it's kind of putting that together in some kind of formal deliverable report. What we're seeing is that on the front and the back end of those, that's a huge help to be able to leverage AI. Everything from putting documents in like Notebook LM, or using agents on calls that are listening, call bots and things like that are recording the call and can capture transcripts. To be able to get all this information into one place that then is not just something that you have to go dig through, but you can query and you can ask and you can, hey, I forgot what they said about this. Before it was, you're on a call and you're taking notes. And, if you missed something or didn't get it right, and it's hard to do that and get everything. But now I can go back and say, wait, what'd they say about this? So it's really, really helpful in terms of being able to do that. And then on the back end, being able to, put things together. We don't use it to come up with the answers. We do that in the middle part, but to be able to put that together and take that workload off, very, senior high-end tech people, that's not what you want them focused on, to be able to create that content and put together an initial draft that then we can go through and tighten up, is very powerful. So what that does is that helps take a lot of the kind of the grunt work out of it, right? So that allows us to focus more time on the things that matter. It allows us to go deeper, allows us to be more thorough, because we do have all that input that's not been missed. We have, all the input from our calls. We have the input from what the target company has filled out. And we can use that to spot issues much more thoroughly, and to go deeper. Because a lot of times tech diligence is, how do you say this? Investors are very focused on financial. They're very focused on legal. And historically, tech diligence has kind of been a checkbox. Well, let's make sure there's nothing massive in here that's going to, implode the company. But over maybe the last 5, 6, 7 years or so, it's really getting a little bit more stature, which makes sense because all companies are now technology companies. So it's not just
that's right.
Hey, this one company happens to be tech and this one's not. So it has more prominence. But to be able to, get in there and do a deeper dive, still in a pretty tight time frame, because it's usually at the end of the process. That makes a big difference, and AI, I think, is a great facilitator of that.
So you're definitely seeing it speed up and assist with the delivery and knowledge retention. Like, so I see it in the diligences that I've done, being able to make sure I'm more accurate, make sure I'm more thorough, and get the job done quicker, but still let me spend, honestly, a little bit more time on the critical thinking and the assessment of the report.
Right.
So,
and it can help point you to the critical things, right? So it can help.
Yeah.
If you run in a tool on source code, it's not always right, but it can point you to some things that are like, hey, pay a little bit more attention here. So again, that same effort can be really, really focused on the things that really, really matter.
But I'm curious, like, if we flip it around, because I know what I'm seeing even with some of the CEOs that I work on is they've got the LLM in their pocket. So they are challenging me as a CTO to say, did you think of everything? Did you check this thing? Like they're lensing my notes, my transcripts against their LLM to say, is Brian doing a good job on that front? Right. So I'm sure investors are doing some of the similar things. Like, what should investors be wary of as they leverage AI to help, counterbalance us or to help them think that they don't need us anymore because
I think that's a great
they can
point.
do it themselves? Like those are two dichotomies that I think are worth exploring for a moment.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think when investors are looking at companies, there's, when you look at the big areas of companies, there's most areas they understand just from their own backgrounds in the world they live in. That they understand sales, they understand, marketing to some extent, they understand finance, pretty well. But tech is this kind of, weird black box. And what AI has done, and perhaps as a disservice to them, is it makes them think that, okay, we can do that too. And so if I've actually seen this where an investor has developed it looks great. It's an automated tech diligence report where they set up their own LLM and they're doing this kind of stuff. And I think there's the perception that it's such a game changer for them because it makes something they don't understand seem approachable and like they have the insights on it. And in our world, when we're looking at something like that, that part is easy. Once you have all the information and you have it in front of you, you've been doing this. We've done hundreds of projects. I've worked with over 100 companies as a CTO. So there's not a lot of new problems. So it's real easy to, once you get everything in one place, to be able to say, that's a risk, that's a concern, and taking that into account with, other softer pieces of input, like this might be a problem, but not in this company because the guy that they have running is already thinking of this. And yeah, it's not right now, but they're moving in the right direction. That's not something AI can do. So to be able to,
there's a ton of these inference points. Like that's what I think you're getting at is like, it's good in the code, but when you and I actually look at the product and see the workflow they string together, that doesn't make sense. We got to call that out. Those kinds of things are missed by the AI, or it's in the backlog as a ticket. So, and I interviewed the CTO, so I feel confident he's got that covered, even though it's a security gap right now.
Exactly.
So there's these nuances that we get. And I think AI can make anything look like $1 million and be pretty, but does it have the gravitas and meat behind it is the question, right?
Yeah. In that example that I mentioned a minute ago, the report that had been produced by the investor was showing, that there was no major risks. Mm-hmm. Well, they were running Cold Fusion 10.
I think is what it was. Cold Fusion in general. Yeah.
And it looked at things just from they answered this and they said this and so yeah, okay, that looks good, but it misses the whole context of wait, just the premise of that is fundamentally wrong, and that's a huge risk. I think it's interesting because maybe there's a thought that it goes that way, but they still use us. So they give us the report, and like I don't even look at the report now at the beginning because I don't want to be influenced by it. But I think for them it comes down to, I think maybe the argument the other way is, which answer in your report are you willing to bet your job on?
Right. Yes.
So did AI really get that right? And we see it in just how we leverage on some of the kind of more, administrative tasks around tech diligence where we're, gathering and putting things together, where it can spectacularly fail. So, to be able to, and I don't think anybody's willing to do this, to bet your job or to bet a multi-million-dollar investment on the fact that it got that right is maybe someday it'll get there, but I don't think it's there yet.
No, it's definitely not. I think it's a nice counterbalance. It's nice to say I had 3 or 4 different AIs look at this and give me their thoughts, but I do the same thing you're saying is you have to do our own homework, do our own thought process, our own reviews, and then we look at those reports and see if there's anything we missed or we want to call out that tool was not correct, et cetera. So I just think that's an amazing example of the balance between seasoned technology executives like you and I combined with the power of AI and taking insight and turning it into real value, real action. So that's that cuts through like the AI theater, as I like to say, and really talk to the value that companies are struggling and stuck with to a degree. Yeah. But I think it opens up a bigger question as we dive into like the lead segment here, which is the most important piece for you and I, is how do we lead with AI, right? The question I have is really around it's not so much the hallucinations. How do I put the question? It's this concept that our thought leadership is so key right now because AI is such a baby, so immature. Yeah. And it will get there. Maybe it will be 6 months, maybe it'll be 6 years, maybe it'll be 16 years. Like I know it's going to catch up in some fashion, but right now it's a critical inflection point to have the experience that you and I have as we head into this. So what is your thoughts on the balancing of this? Because I guess I see people trying to just check the box. Like, hey, I got you my diligence report. It's checked. I did it for $2,000 with the AI tool. That's good enough. But you're absolutely right, because it's going to make the investment fail, or it's going to make the company fail if they buy into that in some degree. So how are you seeing leadership grow and mature and have to hold accountable not only developers to help us get the job done, but now we have to hold AI accountable and punch holes in those kinds of tools that are almost, I feel like they're getting a doctor stamp. Like a doctor or a lawyer says something, like you take it with that gravitas.
That's right.
And AI is coming in saying this is this, and I'm like, no way. I can easily influence AI to say it's this or say it's that with one or two sentences.
It always tells you you're smart.
That's right. Exactly.
I think the key thing there is that AI is not wisdom.
Right.
So AI is a result of complicated math computations that come back with, some
predictions.
A prediction. And I read, I don't remember where it was, that, that the people who have the 30 years experience, they're going to be an important force in this. It's impacting, more entry-level jobs, more, task-oriented jobs that are more simple, like an analyst for an investor, like take an analyst. Well, they don't need somebody to go gather all this information, put it together, and come up with key points. They can use AI for that. But for, just that wisdom of having seen that and experienced those things, and there's so much, especially when you're evaluating people. Holy cow! Like, how is AI going to do that anytime in the near future? That's just not realistic right now. But to have some people who have the wisdom and experience to be able to apply common sense to it and say, okay, come on, guys. Just like you're talking about holding a development team accountable, the same thing has to happen with AI. And I think there's that, I think the trend is moving that way. I think investors are moving this way. I think there was the huge AI hype bubble, just like with any major technological development. There's a hype cycle at the beginning of it where, oh my gosh, this is going to change the world. We got to get in front of it. Everybody's got to be doing it. And you saw that. You saw crazy valuations. You saw, anybody getting money that had AI in their title. Take that back 25 years ago, put an E in front of a company. Same thing. And then what happened is that didn't return value. And so then it's like, okay, wait a minute. How do we use this to actually sell something? How do we use this to actually improve something? So to be able to have that wisdom, that experience, that perspective, to be able to look past the hype, be able to hold it accountable, to say, how can we use this to generate value? And that's where it kind of thing comes back to too, what I was talking about with the, how do you deploy it in a company? I think, big bang hype, we're going to go do this major thing, is the wrong thinking. It's at the day-to-day, where work gets done, where things are inefficient. How do we selectively leverage this very, very, very powerful tool? I will say, there's been lots of technological advances. This is certainly, it's not just your average little run-of-the-mill advancement. But still, it's got the same challenges, and it's going to need people that have wisdom and experience to know how to harness it and leverage it in a way that actually returns value.
And as you're saying that, it makes me think of how the value is going to shift, because you and I go in and we look at the people, right? Like, we're going to understand, do you have the right good people that are trustworthy, have a good roadmap, good, that kind of thing. Then you're looking at the process, like, is the SDLC solid? And then you look at the code and the product and those kinds of things. But with AI coming in and building code so fast, but you need to have a strong AI architecture that helps you build the code the right way with the right framework. Are you seeing Diligence take on that stance? Like, the question that I'm getting asked of my CEOs is, how do I build up the technical moat when AI can build the same thing? Any SaaS thing can be built in weeks or months now instead of years. So I'm just curious, like, is your diligence changing to be looking at the AI tools and automations in place? And what do you see as the technical moat as tech due diligence almost has to get sped up because the AI code can come out so quickly?
Yeah.
Just some thoughts there.
So I think we're looking at things from a couple perspectives. You're looking at it from a product feature perspective. Hey, this company says they're an AI tool to, save the world. And looking under the covers to really what it is. Because just like I mentioned 25 years ago, you stamp an E in front of a company's name doesn't mean that they were truly,
That's right.
an e-commerce thing. So, we see all the time, AI power. Well, what does that mean? And you look under the covers and they're calling OpenAI to, summarize some notes. Okay, that's a cool feature, right? That's a cool feature. And we recently did something like that with a company that I'm working at, and that, several things like that. So they're cool features, but that doesn't mean you're, truly differentiated. And then we're also looking at how the company is using AI. So lots of investors now, because obviously this has the attention of investors, and they look at it from a portfolio perspective of, if we can get 20% productivity and gain out of a company, holy cow, that's game changing. Not to mention just individually for them, but competitively to keep up. Other folks are doing this. So we'll also look at how a company is using AI, not just in the dev group. We'll look at the dev shop, the dev team, to see how they're doing it and what kind of tools they're using, and is that well followed. I forgot where I was going with that, but the point being is that you're looking at it. And then you're also looking at it across the company, like how's the operations team using it to streamline the kind of the functions that they're doing. And then you talked about a moat.
The moat, yeah.
I think it's a challenge, but it's going to be a challenge that everybody will have. And I think. I really hadn't thought about that before, and that was a great question. But I think the difference will be the companies that can actually take it and use it for real enterprise value. Yes, you can develop something very quick with AI, and you might disagree with me on this point, but I think there's a diminishing return. Like you can get up and going with something very quickly, and AI can help as the code base grows and gets more and more complex, but your speed of innovation is not going to be the same as when you have a blank piece of paper.
That's right.
So I think the companies that can take AI, figure out how to use it in ways that really add value, and then the moat is by continuing to innovate. Like what else can we keep doing to make that difference? So it's not like it just changed the rules for the competitor. So it's not just like you're sitting still and the competitor is the only one that has AI and they're going to catch up to you real fast. So just like in any world before AI, if you stop, what is the expression? If you're not growing, you're dying.
That's right.
It just the pace got sped up. So now if you're not growing really fast, growing by innovating, then somebody's going to catch you with a fast following solution. But everybody has the toolkit. Everybody has the ability to do that. So I think the moat is probably a long-winded way of saying it's just continuing to innovate, using AI as fast as you can to stay out in front.
That's right. But that's the question. And I want to try and wrap us up with like the leadership question for the people, right? Because like, we're building AI to help us as people maybe work a little less, maybe make more money, all the things that we're trying to do with the tools that we're building as humans, really. Like as a leader, you and I are hesitant at times about AI coming in and stuff, but at the same time, like what you just said, we have to embrace it. This is just like the internet. This is just like Excel.
It's not going away.
This is just like a TI-82 calculator. Like, you know what I mean? Like all these paradigm shifts we've lived through, like it's not going away. So we have to be, as leaders, teaching our teams to embrace this. And this is a moment of like, I make it, in my head, it makes me feel like I'm old enough to know I coded HTML by hand before there was a thing called an IDE, right? Like I was in Notepad doing HTML. And that's what AI feels like, is it feels like this greenfield new thing where I'm just in the terminal window typing things before the tools really mature and grow. So like, I think it's a paradigm shift for developers and people getting into this space to like how do I fail through it? How do I try and break stuff? And like, what advice are you giving the teams that you're helping lead, mentor, and grow? Like, you have to do this, like fail through it somehow. I don't know if you have some thoughts on what's your canned speech you're giving some of these guys to push them.
It may not be a canned speech, but it's just try. It is I think is as odd as it seems for technical people to be afraid of something technical. I've seen that. And in one of the companies where I work, we had to let go of the engineering manager just because there wasn't an embracing, whatever the right word is there, of AI. He was kind of like, well, that's good for making stuff brand new, but it won't help us.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a real problem. And what I think is so interesting is we started this AI committee in this company that I'm working with to that grassroots approach with. And some of the people doing the coolest stuff are non-technical.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're
getting into it.
They just tried. Yeah. They got in and started doing some things and are like, oh, that's cool. And then that led to that, and that led to that, and that led to that. And they're doing really, really interesting things. But I think from a developer perspective, I think that's incredibly short-sighted if you're not jumping in with both feet and figuring how to take advantage of that. I think our colleague, Kevin Carlson, had a great point that he said he feels like that AI is going to make developers, to require developers to be more product-minded. So the person who's just sitting back there coding something, the days of that are slipping away. That the people that will succeed are the people that embrace this, A, and B, think about things from a product perspective and can, you compress that team instead of it going from here to here to here to here to here. You can kind of shrink that down into somebody that's thinking about things from a business, product perspective, customer value, those types of things, which ironically is what we've been trying to get developers to do for as long as I've been doing this. Is like, dude, come on, think about what you're saying. That doesn't solve a business problem. Why does that matter? But this will probably expedite that because it will put those people out of jobs who think that way.
And that's the shift that I see with the coding. Even if the developer embraces just a little bit of AI, it's going to make them faster, which is going to put the pressure on product. It's going to move the pressure point. But the bottleneck's always been development. Now it's going to move that bottleneck up the line. That's
an interesting perspective. I agree with that because, getting the right stuff lined up and what does the business need, all those kind of things that sound simple but are really hard in practice, getting everybody on the same page.
And those things take time, but it usually takes less time than development. And now that is flipped. So that's that's what I think is going to
that's interesting.
Create this ripple effect, so we need clear, focused leadership that's going to help, build like sustainable, real adoption in companies, right? Like we can't like mandate the tools. We have to give people the right context and confidence to like get into it and just embrace that.
Yeah.
And I think like that's what I think you're saying in that sense of like, that's the most important job we can do as leaders in helping an organization.
Yeah. Take the fear of it out. And if you play that scenario out of it moving upstream a little bit, think of the innovation that will drive, think of the entrepreneurship that would drive, just the productivity that will drive. When before, if you wanted to do something, it was going to be $100,000 to get in and get an idea down and get something written. Where now, smart entrepreneur can take that, compress that all within their own, in their own brain, so they can do that by themselves to ideate something, get it done, get something out there that's, at least an MVP very, very quickly. I think that's going to change the world. And I think a lot of the jobs that might be impacted from a business analyst or a QA person or a coder that kind of go away, that just reshifts and allows people to be, go out and try things. And I think it's going to spark a wave of entrepreneurship and innovation.
I've been saying this, I think, since the first episode. It's going to usher in a new Renaissance era. Like, we are on the verge of that, in my opinion, where everybody gets to reinvent themselves and come up with, like, what did you always want to be as a kid? Because you could probably do that now pretty quickly. So very, very powerful. Greg, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate
you having me. I enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, it was some really great grounded perspective on AI and strategy, and definitely tech diligence. How do people get in touch if they want to learn more or talk to you about tech diligence? Where should they reach out to say hi?
Yeah, so just reach out to me at TechCXO. We're on the website there. My email address is just greg.smith@techcxo.com. And I would welcome the conversation with anybody that wants to discuss that further.
You are very lucky, my friend, to have such an easy spelled name. So greg.smith@techcxo.com. Right, I will make sure that email address and link is in the show notes, regardless of how easy his name is to spell. So, but please feel free to reach out to Greg. He is always a pleasure and is glad to dig in with anybody for a couple minutes and see if they can help steer him in the right direction or help you with a bigger tech diligence project. So thanks again, Greg, for being here.
All right. Thanks for having me, Brian.
To everybody listening out there, if this episode gave you a clearer picture of how to move forward with AI, share it with a colleague, please, or a leader on your team who's navigating some of the same challenges that you heard about today. So make sure to follow the podcast, click the subscribe button down below, leave us a review, check the show notes for everything we discussed and how to connect again with Greg and the TechCXO team. And give us some insights. What do you want to hear about next? Who should I speak to? Would love to make sure you are helping influence this community that we're building. Again, I'm Brian, and you've been listening to AI with Bri. And remember, the future doesn't wait. So get out there and learn, leverage, and lead. This episode of AI with Bri was hosted and produced by me, Brian Denstedt. Produced with help from Nancy Velasquez and Kelly Lopez. Video by Leo Moralina. Sound AI generated. Find us on all platforms at AI with Bri and visit ai.bri.net for more. Learn, leverage, lead.